quiet and comes back, then we'll deal with that later. But right now it sounds good.
Great. I think we're live.
We're, so that means we're live, right?
Wonderful.
Cool. Well, welcome everyone to the Coaching to Flourish podcast. I am your host, John Andrew Williams. Today we are here with Britt Fulmer. Raj is out for this week, but she probably will be back next week. And I thought we could take this opportunity to have Britt on the podcast. Britt has been with us now. It will almost be a year, right? Almost be a year coming up. And Britt's also been responsible for editing a lot of the the head of the writing and research team, research on the 1.0, editing the 2.0. And I thought today we could look at specifically things in the 2.0, the first 8 chapters. Here we go. Welcome, Britt. Welcome, everybody.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So I have a couple questions before. I know you have questions for me, but I want to start too. And the first question is, like, really, truly, what has been when you're working on the 2.0? What have been some of the most surprising or biggest insights you've had while working on the 2.0?
That's a great question. I think the biggest thing that I found is just how exciting it is for me. So to give a little background, so I come from a world of positive psychology, and so I worked at Penn in the Positive Psychology Center for 4 years before coming here. So for me, the coolest thing that I've been able to see in developing the 2.0 is just how much the coaching concepts that we teach and that we develop, already have this basis, this sort of foundation in psychological theory. There's lots of evidence, lots of scientific evidence to back the things that we're, developing and the things that we're using to help coaches to have a really strong impact on the folks that they are working with. So for me, it was just really cool, around almost every corner to feel like there was this really deep connection between the two worlds of coaching and positive psychology. And that was really cool.
Mm-mm. What's your favorite part about positive psychology?
Oh, wow. That's a loaded question.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have to go back to Dr. Martin Seligman's sort of original quest, if you will, when he started this, which was so much of psychology focuses, or old psychology, I should say, focuses on what was wrong with you. So what were the ailments? We have a whole DSM sitting here on my bookshelf with all of the things that could go wrong with us. What I loved about Dr. Seligman is his question was, what's right with you? And how can we take what's right with you and make that and leverage that and make you a better version of yourself and make you stronger and get you to this place of flourishing that he talks about so much in his research. So that's my favorite thing. Is just, in a world, there tends to be so much pessimism and some, negativity that surrounds a lot of things that we experience in our lives. And what I love about positive psychology is it encourages us to say, well, what's right with us and how can we use what's right with us to make the world a better place too?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What's the positive psychology concept that you find that you use most in your own life?
Well, when I was working at Penn, we talked about a concept called put it in perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So I have some anxiety myself that I deal with on a daily basis, as most of us who have anxiety do. And so one of the things that's really helped me, and I've done this, through therapy as well, is this concept called put it in perspective, where we sort of challenge our brains. So when you're having a negative thought, or when you're feeling that anxiety, usually that you're anticipating some type of negative outcome that hasn't happened yet, but you think it might happen. So this concept forces us to say, hey, let's get all of the worst case scenarios out of your head first, and then think of best case scenarios. And when we do in our work, what was really fun about it, or when we did at Penn, what was really fun about it was we really encouraged people to think of the craziest thing, right? So your husband's not answering his phone, that tends to be a trigger for me sometimes, that I worry something bad happened. So if I can get rid of all the negative thoughts, and then I can think, oh, well, maybe on his way home, he stopped at the gas station and he was the 1,000th customer and he won $1,000,000, right? So it's this crazy idea that helps you get into a really positive state of mind. So once you've flushed out the negative, now you've brought some positivity, you get yourself a chance to giggle maybe a little bit, or at least smile. Now you're in a much better place to say, okay, well, what's the most realistic thing that happened? His phone died, or, he's on another call and can't take your call right now. And it allows you to do that. And I think from my personal standpoint, that I use a lot in my life, of like, it's a much faster cognitive process now than it was when I first started using it. But I see it so much in coaching too, that we help people do similar things. And that's why I really was drawn to coaching as well, and wanting to be a part of this profession.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well,
I
I have some
apologize for all the
questions.
dings. I don't know how to, like, I could stop them, but like, it's going to happen. Like, it's just, I don't know. There we go. I mean, it's wild. Hold on. I gotta, let me turn on the do not disturb thing. I'm sure there's someone there like, being like, John, be more professional. Do your thing. Like, yeah, dude, with what time do I have to learn these systems? Hold on, hold on,
We
hold
should
on. All right,
prepare you better for these in advance.
hold on, no, we can get there. All right, I'll do this later.
No
All
worries.
right.
So I have some questions I'd love to ask you
Do
about
it, do it. Yes, let's go the other way.
2.0.
Yep.
So we've been working on this. This has been a labor of love for, I want to say, longer than a year. We've been talking about it. I know I've only been here full time for about a year, but we've been working on moving in this direction for a long time. So what would you say you're most excited for about this new version of the book?
I think there's, oh, it's funny, when I look at it sometimes, I think, uh, when I, look at these works and I think, okay, like, where's the next level on this? And I see like what you're talking about in some ways. Like, when I look at something, I might see all the gaps in it, or I see all the errors, or I see all the work that still needs to be done. And then when I sit down to do it, I realize very quickly, wow, this is so hard. This is some heavy lifting. And then I look at the book and think, it's a miracle that it even exists in the first place. So I feel like I very quickly go back and forth between those two, like, looking at all the holes and then also feeling like miraculous that it's actually done. What's fun about this version is I feel like, uh, you know, as we've done the 1.0, all the academic, the wellness, and the executive, as we've worked on these and poured into them, seeing them get to a certain polish where I think, yes, like, this work is solid, like, all of it's solid, and it's taken a while to get there, and I really appreciate all the feedback and all the people along the way who have been part of this organization, knowing that, okay, the materials aren't like this polished perfect thing yet, but they're getting there, and I'm still getting value from this, and I'm still getting I'm still getting the accreditation I need to. Now it's done. It's a polished product, and the participants. I mean, we I don't know if we've had as long of a stretch as an organization where all the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive for this period of time. That's amazing. And now the 2.0, what we've done in the last 2 years has also been, now the 2.0 is to that level. And I look at it now, the thing for me that I really appreciate is how the field continues to evolve. And there are things that we have in there that feel outdated, and that's positive. And I realize this will never be it will never be a completed work. It's a living, breathing thing. Every summer we have a plan to look at it again, but that's exciting to me too. It feels like, okay, we're there. Like, if you're looking at like life's work, like, yes, like, here it's something I am very proud of, 1.0 and 2.0, and then we have a roadmap for future things too. So it feels like a huge milestone accomplished, and I think for me the thing that I feel most excited about, other than just like, okay, it's done, is that there really is this forward movement in in scholarship in the academic world and positive psychology to come to recognize coaching as a really valid, important thing. And when that happens, I mean, we're just going to find more and more of this in our society. It's not really a matter of if; it's more a matter of when and how. Even deeper. So that's yeah. Those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And the more research that I've done for the 2.0 and finding the people to help, the research I want to put in, the more people I've found that are sort of cross between their positive psychologists who double as coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's happening a lot. So it's really exciting to see that. And so in that same vein, I feel like one of the things that I was curious about is, we've put a lot of research into this. I think this one we said is like almost 200 or so references, lots and lots of footnotes. But we could have made it easier on ourselves, right? And just taught the concepts we wanted to teach without the research. And so I'm curious, I know we've had conversations about this, but what for you is the importance of including the research in the book that helps support these concepts that we're teaching?
Right. There's an element of people when they start out. I think there's an element where people, when you come up with your own thing, or you're training people to do something that you want to feel like, yeah, this is my contribution. This is my Lone Ranger solo venture into the world, heavy individualistic pride type thing that happens. I respect that. I think there's a part of me that respects that journey, and there are useful things in that space. On the other side, there's so much value in asking, how can I be included in this tapestry that's being woven by all these people, by these hundreds, by these thousands of people who've put in hours of research, who have also put their mental, emotional energy into this space as well. What do they have to say about these things? And for me, that's what research is. It's asking what's out there, what's out there in this tapestry that I can learn from, that I can lean into, that I can be a part of, and then what's my part in this larger thing? And when you start asking yourself that question, I feel like everything starts to shift, and that's what research. That's what I feel like research represents. It really represents someone who has taken the time to ask that question. And when you do that, you also get better answers too. You get better answers. You get better questions. I've learned personally some of the things that I really enjoy about the research is thinking, okay, how would I apply this to my own life? How does this change my own outlook? If I'm feeling this way, then imagine other people feeling this way too. Okay, what's the tool then? What's the thing that really gets me out of this spinny cycle? And then it's like using your whole life as a little guinea pig place too. How can I? We are our own test subjects first, and then I feel like I have different circles of people I'll try different things, different concepts with. But that to me is what research represents.
It's funny that you mentioned sort of your process there, because that was one of my questions I was curious about too, is one of the things that I've really enjoyed about working on this project is that every time we met, it was like watching your brain wrap around the content and figure out what we're doing next. And so, how do you decide? What is your process for deciding what topics you want to be included in these spaces where we're teaching coaches how to be effective?
Right. That's an interesting question, and I have a whole system. I have a whole network of trusted people trusted people and friends I work through these concepts with, right? And I worked this out a lot on myself. This is and I asked myself, okay, do I like this? I had a friend. Okay, I have a friend in Portland who he had a knack for giving the very best gifts, the very unusual, slightly off, slightly unusual, but he's every time it was just, what? How did he do that? And I asked him, I said, how did you do that? He says, you know what I do is I ask myself, what is the gift that I want, right? That I want, that I really want, not that I should want or think that, what's the gift that I really want? And then I think of them, and I think, okay, so if I were them, what's the gift that they would really want? And then there's usually something in the middle or something that might fit both, or if it doesn't, then he goes with the one that he would really want but doesn't think it, doesn't. So he would give the gift that he really wanted. And I think about that a lot in terms of these concepts, and thinking, yeah, like, what's the concept that I have found, like, just like made the difference for me? Or the concept that I think, I'm working with this client, I think this might be amazing for this client. Let me try this. It's finding the thing that I most want, and I can use that. I feel like I have a good sort of internal compass of like, okay, like this is where this is at. And then also listening to so many people for so long, there you gain a sense of, okay, like this is what happens when you enter into listening space. And when you enter into listening space, there's, especially in service of someone else, like when you're with someone else, people show up very differently when they're in a group setting than when they're solo. And what's happening right now in our society is that there is so much soloization happening, where you're just solo and you're there with your own thoughts, and there's no one there to like be next to you to be like, hey, like, how's it going? There's no human, like, person there. When you're in solo space, there's such an opportunity to do really meaningful, focused work that really changes the world. Like, you can just get in that space where, like, dude, this is like, we need that. We yearn for that solo space, and we also yearn for connected space. So, what I view coaching as, okay, so what can we cover? What can we sort out in collective space that then is worth it, is so valuable, the insight's so big that you're going to take that back to your solo space and it's going to work? That's the filter that I think a lot of with the 2.0 is wondering, okay, so collective, okay, what can we sort out collectively? Bring it back individually. It's something I care a lot about, and society is moving like even like quicker in this direction. So it's like, I feel like we're full-time remote since 2017. We got a couple things figured out. Now we're 5 years into it. I feel like we're really hitting a stride with figuring out how to move the ball forward, even in this, with different challenges.
Yeah, one of the things that really resonates about what you just said is the fact that while we are training coaches to become coaches of other people, inevitably a personal growth journey happens for those coaches going through our training program as well. And so it sounds like what I'm hearing you say is that sort of connected space where we're teaching these concepts also gets absorbed into the coach themselves and how they want to incorporate that into their lives and make their lives better. And it becomes this really beautiful cycle of, because their lives are better now, they really have much more motivation to help other people's lives. I know that was my story coming through Coach Training EDU myself, was, thinking I wanted to do one thing and then going through the program and having the coaching experience and that flipped classroom model of getting the coaching, and changed the whole trajectory of the way I saw my life. Had I not gone through coaching, I don't know that I would be where I am today. So I love what you're saying is sort of how are we building this into a community that then lets them go use it in their own lives too, to then incorporate it into their coaching practice, and it kind of becomes this really beautiful cycle. And so I think, one of the things like in that same vein is like, there's a lot more, right, to this 2.0 book. There's a lot more concepts. Some of them, we're not afraid to put together something that feels like it might be a little out there because we know it works and it's grounded in something. So I guess my question for you then is, what advice would you give to coaches who are going to be going through the advanced coach training program, to help them grow through that process?
Right. I think there's an element of taking it at a strategic time when there is something around once you finish, because okay, just the way the courses are designed, there's a 1.0 that is meant to be an introductory course and is designed to equip people with everything that they need to start getting their own clients. And I think it's important to, once you go through the 1.0, to start the process of getting your own clients. I think it doesn't make sense to take the 2.0 if you're doing it from a standpoint of, oh, like I'm not ready yet to do my clients. I don't really want to do my clients. I'll take another course instead. Like, please do not use the 2.0 as a source of procrastination to build your own practice. Like, it is not, that's not the best use for it. The best use is when you start to build your client base. You start getting your first handful of clients and you think, yeah, I am now ready to commit and become a professional coach. Like, this is what I want to do with my life. This is where I'm at. And when you start to go at that level and you think, okay, I'm using this course as a structure to learn these advanced concepts of positive psychology, or to learn these like set of let's say 15, 16 constructs in positive psychology, how do I apply those to coaching? That's the core of the 2.0. And I want to use this structure, my colleagues, this meeting once a week for 6 months, for 2 hours a week. I want to use this structure as a structure for me to hold myself accountable, to move myself forward in my business, to bring this to bring coaching to my organization, however you're going to use it, or integrate it more into the career you already have. That's the best use of the 2.0. So it's more like I would think about the 2.0 strategically, like and view it as like a period of power up. Like, you have a 6-month window of, all right, I am now going to rock it. Like that's when you want to press the go button on the 2.0.
What do you hope coaches get out of this updated version of the course?
It's good. I mean, I don't know. It's just strong. I mean, I hope they get out of it a sense of confidence in themselves, in the coaching process, in the research, in understanding, yes, like there is something to learning the mechanics of how human beings work that you then can consciously use to make yourself a stronger, better, more flexible, more kinder, empathetic. Like, there are things, this understanding has consequences. Like, for instance, one of the things I've been playing with a lot is this idea of our daily cycles, and thinking of when we go through periods of up and down, and periods of where we're more primed for flow, and other times where we have to take rests and things like that. But if you think in terms of 20 minutes, like let's say you're feeling sad or down in 20 minutes, and understanding, okay, like it's perfectly normal to have a 20-minute lull at different times, and to start having mindfulness around them, to go, okay, I'm in my 20-minute lull. Don't make any decisions in the 20-minute lull. Don't try to get yourself out of the 20-minute lull. Like, just have a plan. Like, what's your 20-minute lull plan? Like, literally set a timer and say, okay, 20 minutes, and then I'm going to then come back to this. My 20-minute plan is I'm going to stare out the window for 10 minutes. I'm going to put on this structure to remind myself, like, give myself some time to process whatever emotion I need to process. Do I need to write a page in my journal? Do I need to call a friend? Do I need to text somebody? Do I need to look at my, the board of what, I have a board, a goals board that basically functions like a project tracker. Things, and you have a list of things to do, and then you have a list of things to avoid. Like, avoid checking news, avoid checking certain social feeds, avoid going down these rabbit holes. And it's like you can use knowledge like that to know, how do I craft action steps and habits so that I can be more effective. It's work. It's not, but you can't expect yourself to jump from 0 to 10 without having a couple little steps in between, without preparing for it, without having a plan for the lull, or having a plan for if you're feeling like you're having a tough day, like, do you have people you can reach out to, or at least send, check in with, having check-in buddies, accountability buddies, things like that, your coach. Like, there's just a lot of value in understanding, and when you're in that solo space, to be able to be in places where you can connect. Part of resilience is building that, preparing that, developing that. It's a big deal, especially now.
Yeah, it sounds like really related to that concept that we talk about in the Build Your Life's work, like the dip, where we talk about, what are you doing in that space when things maybe aren't going quite the way you thought they were going to go, or the progress you're making in your business isn't as quite as fast or as efficient as you were hoping it would be. So how are you planning in those steps, and having this 2.0 class to help really bolster those skills and talents and abilities that you've already collected in the 1.0 is a great way to sort of have a great resource to have in that dip or in that lull that you were just talking about. Is that sort of a relationship there?
Right, and then looking at all the wellness, all the ideas of what we have in terms of, knowledge around wellness and internal structures. I feel like we do a lot around having internal structures to help, different narratives and different, thoughts, stories we have around ourselves. One of the insights, I know we're running up against time, but I just got to share this insight because I feel like I've been playing with it so much today, and I'm really enjoying it. The idea comes from, neurobiology, thinking of our brains in terms of, having a more, primitive, reptilian brainstem that wants to seek comfort, avoid danger, right? It's like what you're talking about earlier. Like it sends out danger signals all the time. That's its job. It keeps you safe. The way it keeps you safe is by alerting us of, threats, which is really useful. We need this. The way that the frontal cortex developed, with language, reasoning, logic, all those things, there is a temptation for the frontal cortex to think, brainstem, like, you exist to serve me, and I'm going to want my comfort-seeking self to obey my reason logic self. And that's not the way it works. That's not the way it was designed. It was flipped. It's the comfort-seeking self that is really the one calling a lot of these shots and frustrates the logic prefrontal cortex self. And when you can start to, so it's almost like like becoming like a peace ambassador, like not like, like not trying like one to like muscle the other. And when I see a lot of these like New Year's resolutions fail, I'm like, here we are in the end of January. It's precisely because the frontal cortex self that wants to muscle through these things, and you gotta just love on that comfort-seeking self. Like, just give it a hug. It just wants a hug. It wants to be seen. It wants to be heard. It wants some love, and it's it's so helpful. And this is like what a lot of the work that we've done in the beginning chapters of the 2.0 have looked at, asking, okay, so what are our separate selves, and what do our separate selves need, and how can you approach that from an empowerment coaching perspective, using the insights of positive psychology from a powerful, and then with the empathetic, empowering curiosity of a coach. So that to me is how we constructed an example of how we've constructed the 2.0.
Yeah, it's been really exciting stuff. I'm really excited for it to roll out here with some new classes coming up in the next couple of weeks.
And we're going to get some in the color. We have a new cover illustration, new artwork, and it's It's yeah. Thank you, Britt. It's been really fun to work with you in this process and feel like here we are. Like it's tangible. It's done. And I know we have a couple more projects in the works. It's going to be a fun year. It already is. It already has been.
I agree.
But thank you all for watching. This has been another Coaching to Flourish podcast. And then next week, I think Raj is back. We have a couple other questions from the community to go through. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next week.